way that they're pitching cloud is it's bring your data. We're going to bring the governance and the security around your data. We're going to give you the applications to do what it is that you need to do on a day-to-day basis. Regardless of what your business is, it's made for your business because we give you the flexibility in the cloud to do what it is you want to do in any industry that you have. We've got the industry experts that have built this, we've trained it, and it's ready to go for you. Just plug your data in. So the day before yesterday, I was actually preparing these slides and going through it, and IBM actually dropped me a little curveball. They made an announcement on Halloween of all days to say, hey, we're going to change things up. Has anybody worked with Bluemix? Okay. Does anybody know what the announcement is? And have they seen it? They've decided to rebrand again. And IBM is famous to rebranding. And then over the last 4 or 5 years, everything from IBM is Watson, Watson, Watson. Well, they've rebranded, and I think they've done the right thing here from IBM Bluemix to IBM Cloud. Because you would go talk to customers, you would talk to them about Bluemix, and I'd go, I want to go to cloud. I'm like, well, that is the cloud. That's what this is. Well, now they're kind of coming to the senses, like, let's just make this simple. It's IBM Cloud. They've also announced that there's an IBM Lite Cloud account that you can subscribe to now, and it doesn't expire. So you can try out some of these different APIs and services and so forth without them expiring. So let's talk about why organizations struggle to deliver. Why do they struggle? Does anybody have an idea? Why do they struggle to deliver value? Don't be shy.
They don't work hard.
Yes, that could be one of them. Like from an overall infrastructure play, let's talk about some of the categories why an organization might struggle to deliver value. Data, and Ahmed talked to this a little bit as well, right? Data is in silos. People work in different departments, and that's also silos, right? They're not talking to each other. They're not collaborating with one another. So it makes it difficult to get at the information. They may not even know it exists. The organization may not have thought of maybe even ever capturing it. It might be unstructured data that they didn't think of, when they were rolling out a specific platform to incorporate it. So data is a big barrier in terms of delivering value within an organization. Now governance, I can personally speak to this because I've fallen into this trap myself. About 15 years ago, we rolled out, on top of a data warehouse, we were using pivot tables. And we're working in the finance department. And we rolled out an analytics solution. So we went through the whole dog and pony show. We brought in POC, we brought in different vendors to do different things. We're like, fantastic, we've got this analytics solution. Now what? Well, let's just throw it on top of the data warehouse and let people build reports. What do you think happened? The exact same thing that we were trying to avoid, we multiplied times 100. So everybody went in and started creating their own reports and doing their own things. About a year and a half later, we're like, we have to stop. So we had to rebuild everything from scratch again. We had to come up with providing a unified metadata layer that individuals understood with traceability and so forth. And we're seeing that in the marketplace today as well. The governance is lacking. We're seeing tools pop up all over the place to allow the business users access to the data without the thought of governance, right? And once you've let the beast out of the box, it's hard to put it back in. You can't back it up anymore. The skill sets, right? So when you're working for an organization, you have a specific platform that they work on, that they like to develop in, right? Well, that organization is pigeonholing itself to those skill sets only. And maybe the talent pool in that particular region doesn't support that skill set. So skills need to be nurtured within an organization and grown. Individuals want to come in, learn new solutions. The marketplace is exploding with different programming languages today. R, Python, all these things are new, and people want to learn it and utilize it. But it's sometimes difficult when an organization says, yeah, you know what, we don't want to do that. And then infrastructure. There's a procurement process around purchasing things, right? So you purchase your servers, you bring them in, they're loaded on your dock, you bring them inside, your network guys hook them up, your security guys hook them in their Active Directory, you build the data warehouse, you build the models, you build the data sets. That all takes time. But you need to be able to fail fast in this industry because things are moving at a breakneck pace. So there's another barrier in terms of why organizations fail and why cloud might be an option for them. So the world we're coming from, we have all these reports in the marketplace today. All these Gartner Magic Quadrants, these Forrester Wave reports. They're all telling us this person's leading with this solution, there are laggards here, this person's leading there. They're all telling us different things. But at the end of the day, what you're trying to get to is either infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service in the cloud, right? And some of the vendors out there are starting to realize, instead of having all these different solutions that are being rated individually, let's come up with maybe presenting something like this. Insight platforms as a service. We're not just providing you a solution, we're providing you insights and the platform to gain those insights. You see Google's out there in front, IBM's coming up closely behind them, but really that's what organizations want to try to get to, is instead of having hundreds of thousands of different types of solutions that you can implement and then try to integrate, they're integrating them for you in the cloud and letting you utilize them to bring you insights to your organization. So instead of talking broad spectrum cloud for IBM, I was thinking maybe I'd spin it a little bit the way that Ahmed was talking about, Azure Machine Learning and some of the leaders there. I talk about what IBM is doing in terms of predictive analytics and data science in the cloud. And what they're building out is something called Watson Data Platform. And what they're really trying to do there is remove those data silos. They're trying to discover new insights and allow individuals to collaborate and build smarter applications. Ahmed was talking about your data scientists are all siloed and they're sitting in a little corner and not talking to one another. They want to be able to make this a collaborative effort that people can reuse and share within an organization. Which brings me to my next slide. This isn't just a singular individual that's going to do this, right? And we talked about, well, what happens to these individuals in these organizations today? Do they go away? Well, no. There are personas in every organization that are going to be required to do these jobs, all right? So let's talk about some of those. Your first one is your data steward, right? They're going to make sure that that data is governed properly, the policies are applied properly to the information, that the security is around the data so that only individuals that need to have access, but the process is there to grant access to those individuals that need it, okay? The data scientist, right? That individual is trying to use the solutions that are available to them to provide those, or to find those golden nuggets that's going to give you a competitive advantage for your organization, right? And once they found that, how do we get that into the process? Well, that's your application developer. They're going to take those insights and put those into a production process that can be pushed out by your data engineers into those dashboards, just a pipeline that's feeding it. And that's at the front lines where your customer support is interacting with your customers at the point of contact. What's the next best sale? What's the next best thing I can give this customer so he or she won't churn? Right? So those are the kinds of things that are going to be required in this new cloud world, I guess is what we can call it. So it's just a shift in the skill sets a little bit. But those skill sets are in organizations today already. If you're talking about Microsoft, they talk about the same thing. I was at Microsoft Ignite a couple of weeks ago, and I sat in on a workshop where we were working with Microsoft Azure, and we were deploying an application into the cloud. And we had DBAs, systems administrators, security officers, all working in tandem. We would deploy the infrastructure. We would build the app. We'd make sure the database was secure. We'd wrap it all up. But these personas, it doesn't matter who you're talking to in the cloud, they all still exist. It's not just one individual. Let's talk about open platform a little bit. With IBM Watson Data Platform, there's a big partner ecosystem that's contributing to all the content that's going to be available to people that are using it, right? So you've got your open standards, your community accepted things like Python, Hadoop, Spark, and so forth, and then your trusted partners that are providing input and are providing content for you to consume while you're using Watson Data Platform. So it's not just an IBM black box that says, here, use this, and you have to learn all these skills that are IBM-centric. No, these are open standards that everybody today in the marketplace is using that are being fed into Watson Data Platform. So let's talk about that foundation for data innovation. Along the top, you've got your application and solutions, right? So your healthcare, your financial service, your logistics, your Internet of Things. And along the bottom, you've got your cloud infrastructure, be it private, hybrid cloud, or public cloud. In there, you do network, compute, security, all these things, right? In the middle layer, you've got your data, right? Your storage, your analytics. And then the AI layer, and that's kind of what makes IBM, or at least they're touting it as a difference maker. Anybody know what the AI engine is for IBM? Anybody watch the Masters, the US Open? It's Watson, right? So you can think of Watson as like an arms dealer, right? It's that supercomputer that played on Jeopardy and beat the grand champions. But it has all these APIs and different things that you can plug into. And when it played Jeopardy, it used the conversation and the speech recognition. So it could understand what it was being asked in natural language dialogue. One of the solutions I worked for or with at IBM was Watson Analytics, and it was a visual analytics engine you would load your data into. You never had to create a report, you never had to do anything. You just ask it questions like you would do a Google search. So those are the APIs you could use. There's actually a personality insights one. If you go to their website and type a little paragraph in, just anything you want to write, it'll try to analyze your personality based on that. So chatbots, think of like that, right? As people are typing in, are they angry? Are they happy? They have a compliment, they have a problem. It interprets. It's not a real individual, but it's interpreting what your mood is at that particular point. So making those data into insights, really is a team sport, like I said earlier. What you need to do is ingest the data, but you need to ingest it from anywhere, right? Anything, right? Data warehouse, transactional databases, anything that you can think of, right? Unstructured data, structured data, and then analyzing that information and curating it so that it can be used quickly and easily to deploy into the applications to the front lines. And then being able to persist that. But it's not just a once around, right? This is something that's iterative and gets better the more it goes. And then machine learning can only take you so far. There's always a human element to that point. So you still need those personas that we talked about. The data steward, the data engineer, the data scientist, and the app developer to bring this all to life. Some of the services we talk about when we talk about Watson Data Platform. We've got, like I said earlier, Watson Analytics. That's a smart data discovery solution. The Datasign Experience. That's the user interface for your data scientists to go in and write models in, using whichever language they prefer. Data Refinery, being able to pull that all together, augment the data, and your dashboard and so forth. But I'm not going to read all of these, but it gives you an idea of where you can move the data from ground into cloud or keep it on premise. We've got Stream Analytics, so it's data in motion and data at rest. And then obviously the data layer has the data storage. Now it's not just these, there's a myriad of other ones that we can access this. So where do we store our data? Well, we've got a myriad of ways we can store them in cloud, or we can connect to it on-prem through IBM, or third party, right? So you've got all these different options to bring your data into cloud. So let's talk about what the key components are to Watson Data Platform. We just talked about architecture a little bit, talked about persona around, and how do these barriers that we see overcome by cloud. Well, data cataloging, it sounds simple, and I'm sure individuals have tried to do it with data lakes and so forth, where you're just curating all your information, you're putting it out for your customers to access it. Well, with Data Catalog, it's actually a solution that IBM provides as part of Watson Data Platform. What they're trying to do is help data scientists and individuals that are analyzing the information not spend 80% of the time getting the information, right? So it's curated, it's ready for them to use. And then they can consume that via the data science experience, right? The data refinery is the process of which we're pulling that data in, and it gives you a nice visual interface in terms of how the data looks, right? What is the overall distribution of each individual field? What is the health score of the data? Is there things missing that we can make better, right? So the data refinery component, and then the visualization aspect of it in dashboards.
Does it help try and identify like sources of record? So, you know, let's say I have an employee name somewhere, right? And, you know, it's in 15 different tables.
Right.
And I'm trying to figure out where is the one where, you know, everything originates from. Is it smart enough to kind of identify those types of things?
So you're talking about like data lineage?
Yeah.
Where you've got an ETL process that pulls from a master record somewhere. Yes, so you can, in the data cataloging capabilities, we can try to figure out what that ETL process has been, and it can show it to you and trace it back. So IBM has a whole stack of information products like that fit into that scope of things. Because that's one of the biggest things when you're working with an analytics solution, right?
Yeah.
You're only tracing back to the source that analytics engine is getting the data, rather than, well, that's just the endpoint of where the ETL ended. You're going back into your transactional systems, you're going into all these other places. What happened there? So yes. And that speaks to like that governance, right? The security component, trying to understand where everything came from rather than just the endpoint of it. So let's talk about some of these. Data catalog. So discover, right? When you're loading the information into the data catalog, it's going to understand the type of information you're loading in. Is it numeric, is it textual, is it geospatial, those kinds of things. And it's going to display that to you to provide advanced classification capabilities. It's going to be able to catalog it for you. You're adding metadata components to it. So you're adding maybe calculations, things that you want to do with that data prior to individuals getting access to it. And then the governance component, right? So we've got security built into this, so where we can restrict who's accessing what information, how it's being accessed by individuals, what are the policies within your organization. We can build those into the data catalog so that if somebody looks up a specific piece of data, they understand what the definition of that is organizationally, not just for their department. And then the data science experience, that's really the meat and core of Watson Data Platform. It's where you're doing all your analytics, right? You're able to it's got, well, let's talk about the 3 main pillars: learn, create, collaborate. What do we mean by learning? Well, data science is a fairly young field, and individuals are learning on the fly, right, if you will. They're getting in, they're trying new models out, they're trying to do new things with Python or R. What the data science experience has built in is free data sets, tutorials. It's got links to data science communities, so you can do in context learning, meaning you might have an issue and you're trying to figure out how to use it. You can pull a piece of code that somebody else maybe has written already. So it's an open source based community that allows you to do those things. Create, like I said, best open source and IBM value add. So being able to use the technology or code base that you want to use. So whether you prefer to code in Python, whether you prefer to code in R, right? Those are available to you. You don't have to be pigeonholed into one or the other. It allows you to do either one of them. And then finally, collaborate. Like we were saying earlier, your data scientists weren't talking to one another, right? They're, in silos. Being able to collaborate with each other, build models that can be reused or can be the foundation for the next model within the data science experience, so everybody's aware of what's already out there. The data refinery, we can wrangle the information, right? So we can interactively explore the information, right? So as we pull it in, it's going to tell us what the distributions are of all the data that we've got available. We can create flowcharts that visually describe and schedule that information and alert us if there's problems with the data that we're loading in, right? So if there's quality issues, things that we might want to be aware of, we can be alerted to that as we pull that information in. And then adaptability. We can tie into 30 plus sources of information right now, and that list is constantly growing to pull data in. And then finally, obviously, you want to be able to present that to your users. You want to put that in the front lines via dashboards and capabilities that we can do visualizations with. This was actually just recently announced as well, where they're taking the dashboarding capabilities out of Cognos Analytics and putting it into the data science experience. So you can out of box just start slicing and dicing the information without understanding or having to understand how to build a specific chart because the smarts are built in. So you just drag the data elements onto the canvas, and it'll build the visualizations out for you. So not only can you share this out, but you can do data discovery directly in this solution as well. So at the end of the day, what Watson Data Platform is trying to do is democratize the data and analytics for you, right? So through projects and communities, right? Being able to collaborate as team members within an organization to have everything available at your fingertips. Common tools, so anything that includes open source, notebooks, being able to use Python, R, those kinds of things. Being able to catalog the information, to organize it. And one of the biggest things, be able to find it. Right? You can organize away all you want, but if you can't find the data, it doesn't really matter. Data access, right? Being able to create rules around who has access to that information. Policies in your organization to provide that. And that brings you to that enterprise-grade governance, right? To build those policies and structures into your data elements within the Watson Data Platform so that everybody is playing on a fair playing field. So how does it help you in terms of those 4 barriers that we talked about? Data. It provides access, and it puts it at the fingertips of everybody in your organization that should have it, right? And it talks to the governance component. It enforces your policies within your organization, right? To be able to access the information that you're only supposed to get access to and make sure that it is correct. The infrastructure, you can fail at the speed of light now. You can deploy servers and databases and security and networks in a matter of hours versus weeks. And then the skill sets, right? It is open. You can use any skill set that you want. So the talent pool that organizations now have access to are no longer limited to the platform that they are working with specifically, because it's open source, right? You can use any skill set and bring it to the table and use whatever it is that you want to do. So if you want to continue your Watson Data Platform exploration, there's some links here that we have. There's actually a nice tutorial that'll walk you through some of these things. And there's some use cases in terms of, actually IBM built a fitness app using this. That was pretty cool. And there's an organization in New York City that helped actually the city become more energy efficient using IBM Cloud and Watson Data Platform. But does everybody want to see what IBM Cloud looks like, the portal itself? Because I was actually planning on showing that as well.
Yes.
Yes.
It's the only one I haven't seen.
Okay. All right, so it's still up. Let me just maximize this. All right, so if you go to Bluemix.com, IBMCloud.com, it's going to direct you to that same, because they just made that announcement. Along the left-hand side, you've got your infrastructure, right? So you can deploy bare metal servers, virtual servers if you want to. You've got storage available to you. Platforms. There's boilerplates, and you select any one of these services. And if you actually drive into them, we just go to one that I know here. Data Analytics. Let's look at the DB2 on cloud. Refresh. There we go. All right. So Datasize Experience. It'll tell you. You can deploy it to a specific region. You can name the actual service. Deploy it wherever you want to, really, well, in this particular case, UK and here. You can have an organizational where you can actually deploy it into a specific organization. And then choose a space. Within your organization, you have different spaces. It could be a different line of business, right? That you want to deploy and have those individuals use that. Down at the bottom, it will actually give you pricing around what you're doing. And each one of these will have a free version and then one that you would pay for. So you can try it out at no real cost. And now they've got this IBM Cloud Lite, which allows you to persist that free trial forever. Once you hit create, it'll actually spin that service up, and in a matter of minutes you can start using it.
What kind of limits are there on the free version?
5 object 5 gigs of object store, 2 Spark executors. It'll tell you what the restrictions are in terms of what we can do. I have already spun one up, so it's not going to let me spin another one up to work with. But yeah, everywhere it'll tell you what the restrictions are on the free. It's mostly volume that you've got restrictions on, data volume. Because if you're doing data science, you want to use large data sets. So they'll be like, yeah, just use this little one. But yeah, I mean, really at the end of the day, what it allows you to do is just spin up any one of these services that you've got available. Be it Watson Security Network, all the Watson APIs are here. You can spin any one of them up to build apps, IoT. And this other thing that I want to mention here, we talked about, IBM and Open, right? There are third-party providers that are in IBM Cloud, right? So it's not just an IBM product, right? You can go in and use these technologies that are prevalent throughout the marketplace that aren't IBM proprietary. So as an organization, you're like, well, IBM Cloud is just IBM products. No, it's not. It's really not. Questions?